Hey everyone. Alright, so the latest installment of QuakeTemplate. I've run into kind of a snag and I kind of want to rant for a second. It's not really a snag because there are workarounds. The problem that I'm having with this, though, is that it just makes me upset. And I'm going to explain why. But before I explain why, let me at least explain the problem. It's a problem that, it's kind of existed. I remember even having to deal with it in Project Stray when I was working on that. It's that the only real way to get a projectile to work correctly, as far as I can tell, after even trying everything, I mean, even tried this shit with ignore actor when moving and setting that on the pawn, like after the projectile is created, everything like that, right? Yeah, it just does it anyway. So there's really just nothing I can do. So this is with ignore actor while moving, and it's set to self, and on the projectile it's set to get instigator and ignore that. And when I'm in the game, it kind of works, right? I mean, you can see the projectiles going, but watch what happens when I'm standing still. I'm like moving. It's moving me. It's fucking moving me. Okay, so the projectile is still colliding with me. If I make it so that the projectile doesn't collide with me, like uses overlap, then the bullet, when hitting other players, the bullet will travel through the player and collide. It works, technically, but then like the blood splat or whatever the impact effect will appear behind wherever the player is. So using overlap instead of hit doesn't work either. And of course, if I spawn the projectile a meter outside of the player's collision, then I run into problems where you can, one, fire your gun through walls and shit like that. And if somebody's standing right up next to you, the projectile will probably miss because it's spawning so far away. And if I move it closer, then when I'm running forward, I'll hit the projectile. So it has to be far enough away. I think I know what the solution is, but it's not pretty. But pretty much, and I asked, like on the Unreal, like on IRC and shit like that, and I was advised that I should learn about game development and that I should download UT4. I just thanked them. I was like, okay, thanks for the fucking advice. Okay, so what blows my mind about this? What fucking year is this? 2015? It's 2015. Okay, when did Quake 1 come out? But that's not even really the big deal because as far as I can tell, blueprints are A-okay for pretty much everything. Okay? And this problem was so innocuous, I just assumed that it would never even be an issue. Like, it blows my mind that I can't basically just fucking have perfect projectiles automatically in the Unreal 4 engine in the year 2015. Now, the line traces work. They are pretty effective. But they're not very good for things like grenade launchers. And also, too, I kind of like the idea of just using projectiles for all of the bullets because, you know, it's easier to do, like, physics and kind of have the bullet, like, drop off and stuff like that. But there are lots of ways to fake that with traces, and it's totally doable. And, sure, fine. But this problem is stupid. It's like, literally, all I have to do is ignore self. It's on the trace. Like, if I do trace here, like, I have a part of the fucking projectile component thing. There should be a checkbox. Maybe there is one. Look, maybe I could find self. Nothing. There's nothing here. Okay, instigator, baby, instigator. I mean, I looked. I'm going kind of crazy about this. Ignore instigator. Nothing. Nothing. Has nobody made a first-person shooter in this? Other in blueprints? Has it just not happened? I guess I look around and I find people complaining about it, but then people will say that like doing the ignore actor thing works, but it doesn't. So okay, I'm sort of just like I think I know the solution, and that is I'm just going to draw a trace out, and if the trace doesn't fail, hit something, then I'm going to spawn the projectile, 1 meter away from the player. That's lame, but at least it works. It's not the de facto solution. I'm blown away that you can't just basically accidentally make Doom and Quake in this fucking thing. Like, I should wake up in the morning and like fucking step on Doom. It fucking blows my mind. And I am actually upset by this. Like, how the fuck has this been a problem for this fucking long? Or maybe it's just me. Like, but it shouldn't even be, there shouldn't even be these steps. This should be like, it's fucking unreal. It's fucking unreal. It's the Unreal Engine. Okay? It was founded on projectiles. Like from the very beginning. Like the fucking enforcers and the dispersion pistol where you charge it up and the bio rifle and the fucking the flak cannon. There are college students that are they're starving college students that are just gonna like grow up thinking that Unreal isn't that good at projectiles. What the fuck kind of world is this? I'm sorry. I can't. I'm done. I'm blowing off steam, and it's something that probably nobody else gives a shit about. But it just blows my mind that like it even takes an extra step. This, of all things, making a bullet that flies and hits something is like a thing that actually requires maybe like C++ if you want to get it to be right. Out of all the other things that I've been doing, I've been making like pickups and I made an RPG with fucking like all that shit works, right? And I can't make a bullet. Like a fucking bullet. Okay, all right. What is this? Maybe it's there's just something. Maybe. Well, that's the other thing too. Like I asked people. I'm asking people for information on this, right? And they don't even know. They're like, do this. That doesn't work. If I spawn the projectile away from the player, then when somebody's standing right next to me, the projectile doesn't always hit me. Then use overlap. Well, if I use overlap, then the projectile it'll work perfectly when it's firing from me, but it'll do some strange stuff and won't properly hit the targets like other players. You know, the impact effect will be in a weird spot. Oh, well, then just use traces. Well, I kind of want to use projectiles for things like grenade launchers and stuff like that. Oh, and then just make it not explode if it touches. Like, just put a condition right here that says, if equals instigator, don't do anything. Okay, that's great, but it makes my character fucking slide halfway across the map when I'm firing my gun. All right. It's There's got to be something, man. I can't believe this. I can't believe this is it. This is what it's become. I can't believe it. I mean, to be fair, when you're working with things like Quake and Doom and any kind of arena shooters, anything, even not even just arena shooters, you're just working with first-person shooters. Projectiles are a pretty like particular topic, and they do have to meet requirements. They have to not like act strangely in any way, shape, or form because they're really a big part of the game. They're like the meat and potatoes, right aside like movement and all those other things too, like but the guns are really important, and they do have to behave a certain way. They behave really well in UT4, but UT4 is doing everything in C++. And I guess for some reason nobody really thought that you would try to make projectiles uh in not C++, I guess. And there you go. So that's it. Okay. I feel better. I guess after the rant, you probably thought that the video would be over, but I actually sat down and sort of weighed my options. I still want to make the best possible version of this, and arriving at a conclusion uh, that's satisfactory is going to be a bit tricky. But the first thing that I did find is that there is a really fantastic and very simple trick here. Well, basically what it does is it's grabbing the player controller, gets the viewport size. I divide the viewport size by 2 in both dimensions, turn them into floats, and then get that location in the world. That's pretty fucking sweet. That is really fucking cool. So like you can actually find in the world where the center of my screen is. So like world space, here's the center of my screen. It's fantastic. This is a great way to draw a trace out. In fact, I might just go with having, not perfect collision with projectiles, because when the projectile fires through the target that you're firing at, if it goes slowly, then it may not be as much of a problem. To me, this shit is really important though. Like if you see a blood splat, or if you hit the target and it like shows the blood even like a tiny little bit away from where you hit it, it really has a huge like negative impact on the quality of the game. But I mean, so it's really hard for me to like just bite my lip on this one, like and just go with what works. It's bad enough that I actually feel like maybe I should just build a node in C++. Just program a fucking node in C++ that just makes the projectiles super automated, and they just work. Here's a first person or third person shooter template fucking C++ thing that like anybody can go in and just like make perfect projectiles for a first person shooter. It's pretty fucking tempting at this point, because I mean that's kind of the reason why I'm doing a Quake template in the first place, is to like give this to people so that they can just like make their own version of this kind of game easily, like with no problems. You could just totally do this, and it's just really cool. I don't know though. Doing something in C++ might require. I mean, I could probably take a look at Ramos tools, but I really don't want to have that much stuff just to fix this one problem. And that's a big problem with Ramos tools, is that it's sort of just like it's bloat. I just want to fix the fucking projectile uh, system. All right, I'm gonna try slower projectiles, like the speed of a rocket, with overlap. See how that works. And anything that's faster than that, it's just gonna have to be hit scan. And that's just the way it's gonna have to be. Like I wanted to do like with Battlefield, where if you're sniping somebody from a really long distance, you got to account for like bullet drop and shit like that. But I guess in games like this, that stuff's irrelevant. So everything other than the grenade launcher, BFG, or whatever the fuck, like anything that's not distinctively known as a projectile, is going to just be traces. Which is also the nail guns. Actually, there's a lot of projectiles. There's a pretty decent number of projectiles in Quake. So, I guess this doesn't really save me. And I'm not doing his scan nail guns. Just, no. It's never gonna happen. A battle with myself.